Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the IWillAim podcast. Our topic for today is navigating the marketing maze with Joe Madnani. Joe is an award winning marketing leader whose journey from India to United States includes more than just successful career. Her life and work reflect the rich tapestry of the Indian immigrant experience intertwined with inescapable gender and race dynamic. Her first foray into US was Fort Lauderdale in the early 2000s. She moved to the Northeast in 2012. Her nonlinear trajectory is punctuated with many pivots, most important one being a parent. For over 2 decades, Joe's entrepreneurial, creative, and multidisciplinary approach has earned her recognition and awards in advertising by the American Advertising Federation. Beyond her day job, she has contributed to the fashion and lifestyle press in India and in Florida, including Midday Times of India and the Miami Herald, along with local Florida magazine. Presently, Joe continues to partner with brands and agency and is serving as a mentor for Asian in advertising. She's working on getting a collective of poems published that reflects her life experience as an immigrant. If the book had a tagline, it would be for outlier everywhere who feel like they don't belong. Welcome, Joe. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I'm very excited to be here.
You're welcome. Let's dive into the topic. What are the common mistakes do you see in business making in business doing marketing, and how could they avoid the common mistakes?
Oh gosh, I could go on all day about this, and I've made some of them myself. So, the most common mistake I see, whether the brand is big or small, is when a brand tries to be everything to everyone. And it's
Mhm.
that ubiquitousness, it's death, it's instant death because um, you have to stay, it goes back to what we were discussing earlier about the ethos, right? You have to stay true to your values. And then the second personal favorite in the museum of brand failures I see is the shiny object syndrome. So, I don't know why brands feel the need to compulsively jump on to every trend there is. Not every moment is meant to be hijacked. You don't have to jump on every trend because the cultural context is different. Your audience may or may not like that. Again, it's driven by data. So when that happens, when these two things happens, it's a ripple effect of the ripple effects are felt. So first
Mm.
is you have failed to amplify the content experience. So you might have had that quirky idea, but it didn't amplify across all the media where the brand is. The second is it's not personalized. Again, you just took a moment and you twisted it and you tried to make something out of it. It didn't work. And lastly, this one resonates with me because I am a woman, I'm a mom, I'm a woman of color. Um, Not being inclusive. I've seen many
Mm.
brands make that mistake. It's like, look, you're not talking to just one subset of audiences. There are many, many nuances. And by talking to one particular subset and homing in on them, you may forget the fact that this might be a mixed race household, or this might be an LGBTQ household. This may be a single parent household, but they have the buying power. So I think being very careful about how you're serving up, how you're teeing up the message and making sure you're not excluding anything. So one of my favorite brands that has really managed to take this challenge head on is Dove. They
Mm.
have really cracked the code on how they speak about bodies, about hair types, and I think that's just brilliant. So, in other words, to summarize all of this, to not make that mistake, is really read the room, see the cultural subtext, and see what's working, what's not working.
I think the first thing is that hits home with me is being everything to everyone, and I must have like read or heard that many times that if you try to do that, it's like trying to please everyone. It's very hard to do. The other part that I really like what you said is really understanding the audience. Ultimately, and then being inclusive about making sure your message speak to the different subgroup that really are you're serving or catering to. Thank you for explaining that succinctly. What an amazing way to explain it. Next one, I want to talk to you about trends. Trends is important. We constantly Things are constantly evolving, right? How does marketer stay ahead and continue to innovate without just chasing the next shiny object?
This one is a delightful conundrum. And I say delightful because this is what actually forces marketers to be innovative. So I think that there is two aspects to it. So one is going back to what we discussed earlier is the sense. So if you have that insight as a marketer, you have to hold tight to it because that insight is a product of understanding your whole reason why the brand exists. So hold tight to it, and then look at the lens of like, is this valuable for my audiences, or am I just doing this to go viral, or like shiny object? It goes back to the shiny object. So really keeping an account of brand's personality, brands, your fans, your fan love. Like, is this going to resonate with that? And of course, data is a huge component. I think we have I could talk about data ad nauseum, but in this context, for a marketer, and my career trajectory, I've worked both sides of the house. So I've worked on the agency where it's my job. Like I
Mm,
literally, in my one of my agency roles, I begged to have that innovation title in my
mm,
day to day, and one of my remits was to collect trends from healthcare and consumer and present it to the entire agency and talk to them about how they can take it meaningfully to the client, again backed by data.
yeah,
So however, I had to be extremely careful about, is this resonating with what the main brand is. Now, switching sides, when I went on the brand side, I realized that there is a new kind of problem that most marketing people don't talk about, and that problem is, how do you bring the other brand custodians along? So me as a brand marketer, I'm all about brand marketing, but there's a guy who actually made this product. There's a person who actually provided the technology
mm,
behind it. Then there's the C suite. So I think that there is that component missing of internal advocacy that we don't talk enough about in marketing. So as a marketer, you have to hone that art, and you have to bring your internal people along. Because if they don't see the value of this super creative trend that you're about to jump on, then I think that's a hurdle in innovation. So you have to be prepared with your frameworks and everything and bring everyone along internally. And then the second aspect is how to bring the external people along with storytelling. So you have to pick trends that matter, and you have to make sure that it's resonating with the product. It's well timed with a product innovation on hand, and then bring them along with the storytelling. So I think this is where I said two pieces, but actually it's a triangle. You have to triangulate
yeah.
all of this. You have to triangulate how the brand is innovating. You have to triangulate how the trends are fitting in the context, and then your internal and external stakeholders. So, I I like to think in memes. So I'll summarize this part in. I read a meme which resonates with my life. I have had so many pivots. Will, it's not even funny. So the meme said, if something's not working in your life on any given day, just yell plot twist and start running. So I would say to my brand marketing fellows here, if something's not working, yell at your screen, say plot twist, innovate, reframe, do what you have to, but keep moving. I think that's the best way to stay on top of things.
I think that's the best advice, though. If things are not working, yell plot twist and keep moving forward. Next one, I want to ask you for advice for people who really want to specialize in marketing. What's your advice to them?
Oh gosh, I wish I heard this when I was younger. So couple things, right? So first of all, marketing is ever evolving, and it's by design the most maverick field. So the one thing to understand is you have to keep learning. You have to keep educating yourself with whether it's martech, whether it's trends, whether it's culture. You have to stay on top of it. That's the best part. Um, the cultural context is something I love because every day news cycles are so fast. And that's another thing, by the way, I don't think I discussed this earlier, is that 20 years ago, news cycles were slow and you had some time to respond to it. But now
Mm,
they are instant. And so,
fast.
yeah, very fast. So I think the one aspect to remember is always have a crisis plan ready. Now, this is the PR person speaking in me because I've worked with ad and PR agencies. So be careful as to not create those crises by chiming in too soon. So keep learning, be mindful of the crisis. And lastly, I wish I heard this earlier, is keep an eye out on attribution. If you did something, if your idea or your campaign or your strategy worked and it brought in the revenue, make sure that you get the attribution for it. And we're very lucky in this today's day and age that you can go back and you can, use your data, your martech stack, and say,
Yeah.
I did this much in LinkedIn and this is how much revenue it got me. But don't forget that part of the story, because it's sad that even in today's day and age, when budgets are cut, marketing is looked at, as a peripheral discipline, and it's the first to go, and why do we need so many people, and we're always being questioned. So I think the one thing that saves marketing in today's day and age is really attribution. Attribute how much revenue you brought on the table, or whatever positive aspects or negative, but it's in your favor. Data is your best friend. Show the impact. I did not do that earlier on in my career, and that's why things get lost in translation. But highlight the impact. If your insight got X amount of revenue, keep, I would say, keep a swag file and say, I invested X amount of money in social media. This is the yield. Don't lose sight of that. And lastly, telling is not enough. You have to show. You have to show what happened. So show don't tell applies in marketing and numbers too. And I'm a writer, so I have to give you a cheesy analogy. And my analogy in this is, when you're flying on a plane, you always hear, don't forget to put on your mask. So, my dear marketers, don't forget to market yourself. You worked hard and you should be able to own it and be loud and proud about it. So, market what you did for the company and the revenue you got in. That's the story.
And that goes back to evidencing,
Yes.
right? And really advocating for yourself too, being a champion for yourself. The key point I really like, as you was mentioning, is when budget get tight, marketing gets slashed. I was listening to a episode of on LinkedIn, Gary V. Vanderchuk, I think, and he was talking about sales and marketing, and he mentioned that the marketing, uh, you need sometimes one successful marketing campaign and it's a big hit for the company, right? So marketing is a difference maker, in my opinion, right? To be able to create a very successful campaign that generates so much opportunity for the company. So really, I think to me, it's essential that marketing is being taken care of, because if a marketing group were able to create two, three, or four of those campaigns, imagine how massively successful the company could be. I think learning to actually work well together with other department. I think because he was highlighting like sales and marketing often are like at odds, but the
Yes.
reality is they need to be like this. They need to work well together. Today we talk a lot about the top, and thank you for all the great explanation. Today we talk about the landscape of marketing. We talk about the core element of marketing. We even discuss ROI and how to do evidence based. We talk about data, how the role of analytics. If there are three takeaways for today's episode that you think our audience need to remember, what are those three takeaway?
Oh, wow. So one of them is marketing, and this is purely Joe's figment of imagination, but I truly believe in it. It's one part gut instinct, which is validated by consumer research, and the other part is guts. You have to have a beginner's eye to everything. It's not a very rigid discipline where, I did the strategy and that's it. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to get flack. You are going to be in a crisis situation. But if you have a beginner's lens, you can have a growth mindset and you can say, you know what, it taught me so much. It's a problem solving way of looking at it. So that mindset will really serve you. And it goes back to our point about data, right? It's,
Yeah.
if your research is backed by what you know is true for your audience, go for it. Second is, again, data. Use it proactively and reactively. There is so much you can do just, by shifting little attributes here and there. So let your audience be your Sherpa. Ensure you're not excluding key segments. This one, because I'm all about intersections, so be very mindful of that. Watch out for bias and ambiguity. And third, my favorite is be rebellious. Don't be afraid to take risks. And you know what? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Because most marketers I know, they like to push the envelope. They like to challenge the stereotypes. And you should too. And good news for us is we can keep measuring what we do. So those would be
Wow,
my
thank
three
you
main
for sharing
principles.
the three key takeaway. Now I want to give you some opportunity to tell our audience how do they reach out to you when they listen to the episode and they absolutely love it. How do they reach out to you?
So my website is www.theideaisen.com, like the doctor is in. So I'm like the idea is in. And same, my email is an epimonus. So the idea is in at gmail.com. If you have any questions or if I can help you with anything. And Will, I know you said that I could share something. So I have a nice infographic of a branding framework that I can email you that you can share with the listeners. Just that's just how I think about branding, and you can apply that to marketing a product or marketing yourself as a personal brand. But I use that extensively in my day to day, so I would love to share that with all the listeners.
Yes, I'll include it. You could actually add it to your website, and then we could. I'm including the link to your website anyway. If you upload that infographic to one section of your website, I'm including your. I love the URL. The idea is in. Love it. I'm gonna put that on the episode when it goes out, and I'll also put your email address if you don't mind, so people could reach out to you and engage you. Joe, I really want to thank you for coming to my podcast and sharing your knowledge. And I'm sure the all the audience would learn a lot about it. And I'm looking forward to collaborating with you in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
You're welcome. Relax.